This is the ElectraMeccanica Solo, and here's the premise. 3 wheels, 2 doors, and 1 seat. And with a starting price of $15,000 before any incentives or anything else, and 100 miles of pure electric range, they believe this is the answer to commuting in America. Do they have a point? Will people actually want to buy one of these? And what is it like to drive? Let's find out. I'm so excited. I'm Ricky, and this is the Fully Charged Show.
Like the Fully Charged Show? Then you will love our live shows being held around the world in 2023. Next, we're back in the UK for 2 UK shows. First, we're at Farnborough in April. Then we're heading to our first ever event in the north, in Harrogate in May.
Now, let's talk about the exterior styling of this thing, which is by far the most crazy and bold statement that this car makes. Out in front, we have your traditional headlights like you'd expect. This is the grille for cooling the battery and motors and other systems. But this really is the star of the show. This Cyclops headlight is a requirement because of this classification of vehicle being more of a motorcycle. It needs this third headlight. The reason is these 2 headlights on the front are so close to each other, it doesn't give forward-looking drivers enough of a clue of what you are. So this third headlight mounted up high is a law that this car had to have. Now, other cars that have 3 wheels, like the Aptera, don't have this requirement. And the reason why is the Aptera is really wide. The front of the Aptera is pretty much like a full-size car. This is really small in comparison. We have some pretty dramatic fender flares for the wheels up front, a single windshield wiper, which is all you need for this little front windshield, which is again, just kind of crazy. We'll get into the driving of this in a minute here. And going along the sides, we have huge mirrors. I don't know why these side mirrors are so big. Now you have a door on either side, and this is probably one of the quirkiest parts about this car. I would have probably gone with just 1 door and saved money. And that's pretty much it for the glass in this car. You have your passenger and driver side, your front, and that's it. There's no panoramic moonroof or anything else. Moving along the side, you have a really nice aerodynamic profile that contours and comes to a really small point. This is one of the keys to this car's efficiency of 5.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Driving around town is quite a delight. It doesn't really feel that different than any other car. Lower speeds, there's less road noise. It just feels more normal. And if anything, it's actually kind of a dream because of the really tight turning radius and smaller space. Like as far as parking in parking lots and stuff, way easier than the average American car. Now it is the moment of truth. ElectraMeccanica says this thing can do 80 miles an hour with a 50 horsepower motor and 17.4 kilowatt hours of battery storage. Let's find out. 93% on the battery, 0 miles on the trip meter. Here we go, 40, 45 miles an hour, 50. All right, I am flooring it now, 65, 70, 75, 80, 82. All right, there's a limiter at 82. So the top speed of ElectraMeccanica is 82, and now you're hearing it. I feel like I'm yelling, it's a little bit loud in here. The wind noise is not bad actually with the normal pillared windows, but the road noise is really loud. Keeping up with traffic, on-ramps, merging. I don't think this would pose any kind of problem. I'd be comfortable doing it anytime. All right, so first day, first impressions. We've consumed 32% of the battery and driven 23 miles. Ideally, you'd want to see 1 mile per percent, about 100 miles in total, but we're not. Based on our current numbers, we'd be getting 72 miles per charge. But today we were kind of sporadic, a lot of freeway. We'll do more driving, we'll keep looking at it throughout the course of the next couple days. But let's talk about charging. One of the really interesting things about this car is because it has such a tiny battery, it doesn't need all that much in the way of charging. So even with a level 1 charger like this and a 110 outlet here in the US, you could charge this thing to full in just 12 hours, which means you can charge it about halfway between the time from midnight to 6 a.m. when you wake up. And it also has this 240 volt, which would allow you to charge this thing up in about 2.5 or 3 hours. but we don't have that, so we would take that off and just plug it into the wall. I hear the fans running, so we're charging at 7 amps. And it says time remaining is about 9 hours. So this is probably the last of the driving for today. By tomorrow, it'll be fully charged. And that's what you can expect as well if you got one of these. You could charge it at home on a 110 every day. No need for electricians, no need for level 2 charging. You could just do that all on any traditional plug. Now the difference between today and yesterday is now that it's warm out here in San Diego in the day, even in January, we didn't need the heaters. And that's going to be one of the factors that will determine your range. Are you running a resistive heater or your seat heaters? Yesterday I was running both. That's where I came up with the 70 miles of range, not 100. But today at 80 miles an hour, I would have gotten about 85 miles of range on the freeway. That's pretty amazing. So as you can see behind me with this ultra wide lens, it looks like I'm in a fighter plane cockpit, and that is totally the vibe you get driving this thing. That'll either make you feel one of two ways, depending on who you are. You'll either feel a bit claustrophobic, because again, I can reach out and touch both ends of the glass here, or like you're a freaking fighter pilot. I'm digging that. I gotta tell you, 2 days in driving this thing, it has grown on me a lot. Now the one question I know you're thinking is, how safe is it? It doesn't have the same classifications or crash test ratings and reviews as a traditional car. But from what ElectraMeccanica has told me, it has front and rear crumple zones. They also have triple reinforced steel side impact protection on both doors. And I believe it, because these doors are pretty thick and it has a good clunk when you close them. And of course it has traction control, stability control, and 3-wheel power disc brakes. Now, one thing about this car that I wish was improved as well is the regen braking. It's almost non-existent. It's not nearly as much as it needs to be anywhere near one pedal driving, let alone, you know, like regenerating downhill or something. So you're not going to get that range back, which is a shame, because that's really where EVs shine in stop and go traffic. Anytime you slow down, you get a lot of that battery power back, like 80% of it. My biggest gripe, I think, with this car is that the fan speed at low, the lowest setting for the fan, is just way too loud. I wish they could dial that down so that the lowest fan speed was just barely audible, just move some air around, keep circulating, but I don't want to hear it so loudly. It's like the loudest thing in this car. Because most of my other gripes, like for example, the padding for the armrest, that's just a quick little $10 fix, but I don't know about that fan motor. This is one of the most economy feeling cabins I've ever been in. Everything is hard touch plastic. Every door sill, every door, even where your elbows rest, is hard plastic. The steering wheel, there's no fake stitching or anything else, hard plastic. Here's something that you probably haven't seen, depending on how old you are: a single DIN stereo. When was the last time you saw a car with a standard single DIN stereo? Yeah, look at that, a key. Just a key. It doesn't require a Neuralink implant. There's no cards or anything else. An old-fashioned key. But other than that, this car is as little as you need to drive around. Oh, let's not forget, us Americans, we gotta have our cup holder. Overall, sitting in this car for any period of time, I felt it was quite comfortable. The seats are really good. The one thing I wish I would change is that the seatbelt latch is right where your left buttocks comes down. That's something that, depending on how large of derriere you are, it might be a little bit of a nuisance. It takes a little getting used to, it really does, and this got me a lot of attention out on the road. But you've got circular tail lights here that are your brake lights, turn signals, and the reverse light is all built in. The charge storage back here, traditional J1772 plug. With a level 1 charge, you can fill this thing up in about 9.5 hours. Go to level 2 and you can charge it up in about 2.5 hours. But no rapid charging, no DC fast charging here. And of course, talking about the Solo would not be complete without talking about this, your single drive wheel. This is your one wheel in the back. The front wheels are just for steering. All your power comes out here. And if you look on this side, this protective element here protects the belt. So the motor is a little bit more centrally mounted, and it has a belt drive to this wheel back here. You're probably thinking, what about rear cargo area? Well, there actually is a space back here. On this, the traditional standard model, there's 5 cubic feet worth. It's actually not bad. If you look, it has quite a bit of room for groceries or other various odds and ends. So why is this significant? Why does it matter, and why make an episode about it? Well, the average American drives 41 miles per day to and from work, well within the range of this car. Also, 76% of Americans drive to work alone, normally in big SUVs that get 15 miles a gallon. And that's the case for this car. If you drive to and from work and you can save money, might buying something as cheap as this actually make more sense? I've had this car for the past 2 days, and that's pretty rare. We don't normally get to keep cars that long. And with every time I got into the car, I just started loving it a little bit more and more and more. And if you look around the car, inside and outside, every decision the engineering team made seems to be for the purpose of how do we build a $15,000 car. This car was made in China, but they are moving that operation onshore to Mesa, Arizona, where they've procured a 200,000 square foot facility where they're gonna make 20,000 of these a year. And with the simple design, having a lot less stuff per car, I think they just might do it. If you have any questions or comments, write to us, let us know below. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you have been, thank you so much for watching.